Hello and welcome to Partridge Models and Transport. Okay, so this evening we're going to fix the broken buffer beam on the sncf BB 67001 diesel electric locomotive. And to do this I'm going to use a styrene clipping. This is a 0.75 millimeter thickness styrene clipping, and of course we have to make a pattern to cut the 0.75 the bit. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to hold this part here, the piece of styrene. I'm going to paste it using paper tape. I'm going to position it inside the buffer beam, and then I'll use a pencil to make a pattern. So first step, this is the first step. So I'm going to just put the piece of styrene right there on the side of this piece of paper tape, like that, more or less, which I am going to simply just to hold it in position this way. I'll also hold it with my fingers to be able to just make a pattern by pencil. Using a pencil, I've got a B1 pencil here, which is handy, and we're going to make our pattern like that. Bit of an irregular shape, so that's the pattern. But if I cut round this pattern here, it will be smaller than the actual hole. So what I should do, I'll have to cut round the actual I'm going to have to cut round the pencil mark, right, to make sure that it's not too small. But here we go. So here's our piece of styrene. That's our shape. But to get the right size, the absolute right size, I'm going to use, yet again, the paper tape. So we'll leave that there. I'm tearing another bit of paper tape off here. And now I'm going to use a different technique. This is a technique I learnt when I was working as an interpreter at the Shoemaking Polytechnic here in Capriccio di Vigonza near Padova. Very interesting experience. I learnt lots of things about shoemaking. And what I'm doing now, I'm making a pattern using paper tape, the same as they do when they make shoes. So of course, and this process of using paper tape to make a pattern is called drawing on the last, because that's the moment when the one-dimensional drawing of the shoe turns into a three-dimensional model on the last. The last is the shape that the shoe last, so that each shoe, each size, whatever they're making, a man's shoe, a woman's shoe, a flat shoe, a high heel shoe, etc. They paper the last with paper tape, and then they draw, using of course all the various marker points and distances. They transfer the drawing from paper onto the last. At that point, they peel the paper tape off in a certain way, and they use the paper tape with the drawing as the pattern for cutting the leather. Of course, this is a traditional way. Nowadays, in shoe design, they use CAD-CAM, 3D design, and there are machines that print, that make, actually, you do everything in digital format, and then they print out they print the patterns to cut the leather directly from the 3D model, no, that was designed. So, but I'm using the traditional method right now. So I'm applying this method. So we have to make a pattern, and this will be an exact pattern of the broken parts. So I've papered it, and now I'm just going with my soft pencil, and this way I'll get a good the exact dimension of the missing part by colouring in, and the soft pencil is highlighting the borders of the broken part, and I'll combine the two to get the exact dimension, what I need to be able to cut a piece of styrene the right size. So it's a bit tricky here, but here we can see and here's our point of reference. Okay, so I can peel this off now, and now I'm going to use a cutter to, I think I'm going to take, we don't need the shoebox anymore, we're propped up in a shoebox. Okay, we're going to use the cutter to make the actual pattern. Sharp enough, yes. So our point of reference is this one. Of course, if it's a little bit bigger, just as well, because then we can trim it off. So that's that, we don't need that. Recycle that. And now I'm going to follow the pattern . Watch out, let's line this. Okay. There we go. And down there like that. Oops, oops, oops. Okay, that'll do. So this is more or less the real dimension of the hole. Let's see if it really corresponds. Maybe we should have stayed on the box. Just sticking it to my finger. More or less, that's it. That's the size. There you go. See? Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this piece of plastic off. I'm going to take the pattern. Here's the paper pattern. I'm going to glue, paste the paper pattern to the piece of styrene. Like that. And now we'll actually see if this is actually any good. More or less, I'd say that's good. That's quite good. We've got, oops-a-daisy, that's good. A minute. That's more or less the right size. Okay, so now I'm going to get my pencil and I'll be able to actually mark a larger pattern on the styrene to be able to cut the bit of styrene to size, being a bit more generous, and that gives me space. It's better to file down material than to have to build it up. Building up can be complicated. Arcadia Arcadia Junction models, he makes a very interesting kind of filler paste. I've seen. It does himself, mixing Tamiya cement with all the styrene clippings, sprue clippings. I see that's very good. That's a very good filler. I've never thought to make some of that. And then I usually fill in using glue and glaze, because glue and glaze is actually quite good at filling in. Remember, we did it on the Bedford ML. But in this case here, I prefer to file down than to fill in. I don't know how sharp this cutter blade is. It's been on the go for a long time, but we'll see. In fact, we could actually take the tape off now, because we've marked what we had to mark. I'm using tweezers not to make a mess. Smudge the... See, it's a little bit bigger, but just as well we'll just trim it down. So we can actually go directly on the pencil, marking now. should have probably changed the cutter the cutter blade. It's not really very good. It's not fantastic. Okay, this is a straight cut, so it's easy. Anyway, there will be parts that have to be trimmed and filed a bit. So okay, that's going to break off. Yep, there we go. So that bit comes off. And now we have to get this bit here off as well. And more or less we've got our part. Let's see if the part actually fits, and if it's too gigantic. The part is a bit too big. So now I can actually get a bit closer. I can decide what to trim off. I can pull this down a wee bit, like that. Hold it in position with my finger. And I'm just going to reduce it. Oops, disappeared. Of course, it would be easier if I weren't working on a microscopical trimming, but of course you want to try and waste as little material as possible, so we work in miniature. See if this is one to come. As long as we don't do a video of me cutting my fingers in real time. Okay, we're getting closer. And the file it down a bit. We're getting there, huh? See, I'm just trimming this off like this. And I'm reducing it gradually to get it to the right dimension. this is. This locomotive landed, fell on a floor, no doubt. So that part's okay. We still have, in my opinion, to trim a bit off the edge here. The wee corner that needs snipped off. I'm going to get a bit, stick it on a bit of tape now, and put it, fit it in as if we're fitting it. So it's flush here, but there's still some parts that need trimming off. Some parts need trimming off. So let's go and mark what has to be trimmed off, which is practically over here and over there. And then we'll pull it out and see what has to go. So here's our stuff. I think we need to cut some off here. When I got this this BB 67,000 body shell, I saw, you know, missing glazing, broken bit there. I just said, ah, no, I'm not going to do anything about it. Then on Vinted I came across the chassis for a very good price, and I thought I'd already, you know, been stung by the Jouef one with the missing magnet, and I had a look at the single drive motor bogie of the Jouef, the very complicated, it's all clipped together, and then maybe motors with problems and lubrication and so on, and I'd nearly given up the idea of the BB 67,000, and then this Lima chassis came along. Probably it would have been good to maybe, if I had decided to keep that Jouef one, I could have, the bodywork on the Jouef was good. I could have kept that and just, you know, done a body swap. But on the other hand, I'm actually quite pleased because the detailing on the Lima one is actually a bit better. The paint job. It's closer to the real thing. So, I say that we're quite good. We still have to trim something off this. You see? Let's see what we have to trim off. I think we're just going to do some trimming with it, with a file. I'm just getting on. Anyway, this thing here, I'll glue it on with glue and glaze. So we'll be using glue and glaze to fill it in. The best thing would be to fit a wee bit of aluminium around the back, but I don't know if we have enough space once we have the chassis fitted on. That's quite good. Yes, it's okay, but I'm also thinking of another solution, because right now, as I'm doing all of this, I'm also thinking, excuse me, about how complicated it's going to be to glue this stuff in position and hold it there, because we'll be using glue and glaze. So let's see. On the other hand, I could use, because anyway the 3-foot rule applies, I could use a piece of thin, either 0.30mm styrene, and just plate this over, say from the coupling hook to there, just patch it. I sort of go as far as there, say. Anyway, then we have to repaint things, so we have to repaint the buffer bar. And it's a pity, and the buffer bar is blue. This is prototypical, it's blue, it's not red. It would have been too good if it had been red. Now I'll have to mix paint to get this shade of diesel locomotive blue. I could just not bother and try using a piece of 0.30mm styrene. Let's see how flexible that would be. I've got a bit in here. Good night. Have a bit in here. Of course, this is nasty trimming, but it would give us an idea of flexibility. And that might be really very simple thing to do. 0.30mm styrene, or another solution. There might be even another solution, because you always have to have more than one solution to a problem. So I have my boxes of solutions here. Off camera now. Oh, where did it go? Piece of tea light aluminium, which might be nice and thin. I won't be using this part here, but I've got other parts, but let's just snip a bit off. I've got plenty of them. We're simulating with a piece of this. Now, this here might be the answer to our question. The buffer question, because look at this. This is nice and soft. very thin, much more malleable than the styrene, and this glues on with glue and glaze, and it glues on to perfection. So, and we can go right over here and make the strip go right over and meet up there, and then paint the whole lot. So that was a lot of video to reach. This is how these projects go. You have an idea, you apply, you test it, you see that it's absolutely no use, and then you go for something completely different. And pity I didn't have the idea, but pity, it's not really a pity that I didn't have the idea at the beginning, but you see, ideas come, especially when you're restoring things like this, ideas come as you work and along the road. Now, and the aluminium, once it will be glued on with glue and glaze, will be very, very solid. So we're going to use aluminium. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. It's the video of me changing my mind, which is pretty frequent event when I'm restoring models. I sort of decide to do something, I'm very convinced, and then afterwards I say no, we're not going to do that, we'll do something else. And in the end, it was a lot of work, but that's how you make a pattern. It's one of the ways of making a pattern, but of course we're not going to do it. We're actually going to use the aluminium. It's going to be much easier, and it will provide a much better job, a much better result. So aluminium it shall be, or aluminum if for my American friends. I know that you say aluminium and we say aluminium. In Italian we say alluminio. Okay, so, well, if you manage to reach the end of the video, you'll have seen what I decided. I'll write in the title, say, rather long video to make my mind up and do something the exact opposite of what I'd set out to do at the beginning. Okay, if you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and of course, I always enjoy reading your comments. Cheerio, and good night again. Because I always end up doing these things at night. I mean, it's still today. It's actually, what day is it? It's Friday, the 23rd of May. I don't know when I'll publish this, but it's still today. It's not tomorrow yet. And I'm planning to go to my bed today, this time, not tomorrow. Cheerio, and see you next time.